blessing you pour out, turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will sing. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be the glorious name. Blessed be your name. When the sun's shining down on me, when the world's all as it should be, blessed be your name. Blessed be your name. On the road marked with suffering, once pain in the offering, blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name.
You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name.
Well, good morning and welcome to Unplugged. I like to give my people a little break after they work so hard for you. Hope you enjoy it.
When he rolled up his sleeves, ain't just putting on the ritz. Our God is an awesome God. There's thunder in his footsteps and lightning in his fists. Our God is an awesome God. The judgment and wrath when he kissed around the heat, it wasn't for the reason that he shed his blood. The return is very close, so you better be believing that our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. When the sky was starless in the void of the night, our God is an awesome God. He spoke into the darkness and created the light. Our God is an awesome God. The judgment and wrath he poured out his love. Mercy and grace he gave us at the cross. I hope that we have not too quickly forgotten that our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God, oh, I hear you, is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from bow our heads and pray. Father God, you are an awesome God, creator of the heavens and the earth. The first sign of wisdom is acknowledging you, that you are our creator. We just thank you that we can look to you for comfort in our time of need. We lift up these songs to you this morning, and we pray that you keep your Holy Spirit over us. In Jesus' name we pray.
Whoa-oh, 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 whoa-oh.
Hello, my name is Rico. I'm pretty sure we have met.
Every single day of your life, I'm the whisper deep inside that'll let you forget.
Hello, my name is TV. I know you
Recognize me. Just when you think you can win, I'll drag you right back down again till you lost all belief. And these are the voices, and these are the lies that I have believed in for the very last time. Hello, my name is child of the one true King. I've been saved, I've been changed, I have been set free. Amazing grace is the song I sing. Hello, my name is child of the one true King. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh, whoa-oh.
I am no longer defined by the wreckage
Behind the one who makes all things new, he's proven it's true. Just take a look at my life. Hello, my name is child of the one true King. I've been saved, I've been changed, I have been set free. Amazing grace is the song I sing. Hello, my name is child of the one true King. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh, whoa-oh.
What love the Father has lavished upon us, that we should be called His children, child of the one true King. What love the Father has lavished upon us, that we should be called His children.
Hello, my name is child of the one true King. I've been saved, I've been changed, I have been set free. Amazing grace is the song I sing. Hello, my name is child of the one true King. Whoa-oh, whoa-oh, whoa-oh. Child of the one true King.
Good morning and welcome to Riverwood Church, a place for people who may have given up on church, but haven't given up on God. If that's you, you're in a great place and you've made a great decision to join us today because we're really not that concerned about where you've been. We're much more concerned about where you're going. So it's our sincere hope that today you'll hear something in the message directly from the Bible that will help you understand just who God is, what His purpose is for you, and how that can change you forever. But before we get started, why don't we bring up the house lights, find somebody you don't know, and welcome them to Riverwood. Next, I wanted to draw your attention to the program you received when you came in today. If you didn't get one when you entered, there are some ushers coming down the aisles now with extras. Just raise your hand and they'll be happy to give you one. Inside the program is a connection card. If you haven't done so already, will you begin filling out this card? If you're a member or a regular attender here at Riverwood, you can just give us your name and email address and any information that might have changed. But if this is your first or second time with us, we'd like to ask you to give as much information as you feel comfortable sharing. And be sure to mark the box on the side that says first or second time guest. As you work your way down the card, you'll see a question that says, how did you first hear about Riverwood? As a church that values people and relationships, you can probably imagine that we are interested in how you found out about us, so we'd really appreciate that information. Now, one of the main reasons we ask you to complete this card each week is because we believe that God has a next step for you. On the back of your card, you'll find a number of next steps. Check the boxes on your card to sign up for events or to get involved in the various ministries that are happening here at Riverwood. Also, your program has details of each event coming soon to Riverwood. You'll also find a number of next steps on the bottom of your card where it says, "Today's message moved me to." We'll be sharing more about these in today's message, so hang on to your connection cards and we'll collect them at the end of the gathering. Thanks, and let's continue on.
Yes, let's do that. Welcome. Good morning. That was a great week last week, wasn't it? It's going to be a good one today, too. I'm glad you're here. My name is Bob. If we haven't met yet, we can rectify that after all this is done. So welcome to Riverwood. We're going to continue with the teaching series called #Hope, Finding Hope When I Feel Like Giving Up. And that's where a lot of people are, unfortunately, these days. So we want to talk into that situation. During this series, we're looking at 5 of the biggest challenges in life, challenges that can cause us to lose hope, throw in the towel, just want to quit, you know. So in your program, you have this, right? And this is the notes. So I want you to take that out right now because we're going to read something off of it real quick. It's a verse. It's our memory verse for the series, and we're going to read it together. It begins with the word, "Let us hold tightly to the hope we say we have," and that's Hebrews chapter 10, verse 23. All right, you ready? Everybody ready? Ready? This side is ready. This side is ready. Yeah, I had my doubts. Wow, I had my doubts. Okay, so okay, let's go. Ready? Go. "Let us hold tightly to the hope we say we have, for God can be trusted to keep His promise." Now, on your connection card, which I was just amazed at how clear and explanatory that little video was. It told me exactly what I needed to do with it. So on the back side of this, there is this "Today's message moved me to." So this thing is important. We're not doing it to, for our benefit. We're doing it for yours. And the reason for that is faith is sometimes some dramatic confrontations with God, but more often than not, it's incremental steps we make to change the way we do our lives and how we think. It's things that take us out a little bit of our comfort zone and try to trust God in ways that we might not have the day before. So this is where this begins. Maybe you've never memorized anything from the Bible. This is your time to do that. So that first box in that today's message thing is all about memorizing this verse. Now think about this. This is just like one sentence. It's like one sentence. One sentence in 5 weeks. Can you handle that? I think probably that's not too big a challenge, but it may be the first time you've ever done anything. And so when you're thinking about how difficult life becomes sometimes and you don't have anything to substitute for the negative stuff you got going on, try this because it works. I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I can tell you I never regretted one thing that I've committed to memory because it changes the way I think and how I feel about my life. Okay? So try that one. So today, finding hope when I'm running out of everything. There are so many people who are in this sort of a place right now. Feel like this is happening with some frequency. From time to time, we've all got this, right? So if you haven't experienced this yet, you just probably haven't lived long enough. So maybe you're running out of the support of friends, running out of time, running out of money, running out of, you're running out of hope, because there just doesn't seem much left. Maybe you feel like you're right there now. So if right now in your life, I just want you to ask yourself the question, where are you ready to quit right now? What are you on the edge of giving up on? What's running you down? What's sapping your energy? What do you think that you this going way out beyond what you're able to do? You can't sustain this anymore. So I came up with a list of things. These are my top 10. You can judge these any way you want to, anywhere from a A down to a C minus, because my self-esteem won't handle anything lower than that. So just be gentle and kind, So anyway, here's number 10 on my list of the things you can't run out of. These are bad when you do. How about this? Basics. Gas. Now, if you're like a lot of people that I know, when I said this a couple of days ago, somebody said, "I know exactly what you mean, because I know when the little light comes on the gas gauge on my car, I can go 31.3 miles. Yeah, so you got it all scoped out. I know that the next pump is 29 miles away. I'm good. But it's not good to run out of gas. Number 9 is running out of energy. It's a fast-paced kind of world we live in. We're kind of running hard. Some people working 60 hours or more a week, like I do. And so coffee is not the end-all, be-all, but it is usually the best start-all. This brief commercial message was brought to you by God. Okay, so number 8, you got ready for this one. Now be nice, but you know this is reality. It's not good to run out of toilet paper. Now, I hate to get so mundane in this life. We were over at some friend's house a week ago, and because we hadn't been shopping as often as perhaps we should, my wife said before we left, would you mind if we borrowed a roll of toilet paper? To which I quickly added, I don't think borrow is the right word. You're never going to see it again. Or the baby version of this, when you have children, like, it's a panic moment. We just used our last diaper, and it's like just 8 o'clock at night. So if anything goes wrong, we're hung, you know. We used to go into panic moments about running out of pacifiers because our kids were like really, you know, bonded to them, you know, when they were really young. And the worst thing that could happen is we lose one. I'd drop it, and invariably it was a snowy or wet and rainy night, and it would drop out of the car, roll underneath, and I'd be crawling underneath the car because I knew what it was going to be like for the next 8 hours if I didn't. You know, running out of those things is not good. Do you ever wonder what they did on the Conestoga wagons when they were headed west, right? What in the world did they do for weeks on end? I'm not sure I want to know. But anyway, so that's one thing you don't. Number 7, you don't want to run out of time. You know what happens when you run out of time? The whole world slows down. You're speeding up, and everybody who ever wanted to go anywhere suddenly decided to turn on the road that you're on and go 10 miles under the speed limit. It just happens, just with regularity. Last week the Wisconsin Badgers ran out of time. They didn't really lose the game. If they'd had another 5 minutes, they would have won, I'm sure. So anyway, running out of time. Number 6, running out of friends, which, by the way, is part of the reason why the church exists. We exist because relationships are so vitally important in this world. Number 5, running out of opportunity. You didn't have a job you needed, or an educational opportunity that you needed, or some way to prove yourself in this world. You run out of that stuff, and it puts you in a bad spot. Number 4 is something I learned a year ago. You can't run out of ice melt in the middle of a bad winter. Did anybody else run out of ice melt? I mean, I was looking around. I went to get water softener salt for my driveway. That was not a pretty picture. And it was really hard to get rid of later on. It kind of worked. Gave you plenty of traction. You're like driving over gravel. So, but the ice melt. Number 3 is a sense of humor. Witness the last 4 minutes. But it's really important for us to be able to laugh at ourselves. You know, one of the defining characteristics of humans is our ability to look at ourselves objectively and kind of have a laughing moment. And the downside is that we have to do it so often. And the twin sister of humor is patience, because if you don't have one, you're going to get the other. Right? So number 2 on the list, see if this one works. Money. You ever have more months left at the end of your money? That's not a good situation to be in. But the number 1 thing you can't run out of is hope. Last week we kicked off the series with the idea that you can't live without hope. You need hope to cope. That's absolutely essential to life. But this is especially true when you're running on empty. When things are just gone and you're out of everything, your resources are depleted, right? When this happens, you get discouraged and defeated and hopeless. And there's nothing worse in this world than being without hope. Hope can help you endure almost anything. The lack of hope means almost anything can make it unendurable. That make sense? So sometimes you just run out. So here's the question. What are you running out of? What's kind of the thing that's sapping your strength, taking your energy, all your resources are going this day? What's causing you to feel down and discouraged in this world? What is making that happen inside of you? So sometimes, listen, God allows this to happen in us. It's on purpose. Now you may think that sounds almost cruel, but it is not. It is not. He takes away that thing or the person or the stuff that you really rely on, so you learn to rely on God more. Because God provides these things, but those things are not God. And sometimes the only way we recognize that God is where He is when He removes the things that we have counted on instead of Him. Does that make sense? When that's going on, here's the way we learn. You don't know God is all you need until God is all you've got. You don't know God is all you need until God is all you've got. That's the only way to learn that. To learn the substantial nature of the character of God and His undergirding of people. Sometimes God allows these things to happen to remind you that He is all you need. So that's an essential lesson. So here's the idea for the day, and I want you to say it with me. It's on the screens. I will trust God to take care of me. Can you say it with me? I will trust God to take care of me. One more time, because it's clearer over here. I will trust God to take care of me. And if you believed it was clearer, then you'll believe a lot of things. So anyway, so today we're learning about a fascinating character in the Bible. His name is Elijah. A lot of people name their children after Elijah, and they don't name their children after the other characters in the story very much at all. We'll explain that in a minute. For Elijah was this devout follower of God. He was a prophet, in fact. And God had called him to an unusual thing in his life, an unusual time in the life of Israel. He ran out of everything during this process. He was following God, and everything that he was counting on was taken away piece by piece. All these valuable things. But what he learned was something far more valuable than what he lost along the way. What he learned was far more valuable. So one of the things we have to understand, that these are life-changing lessons about the people in the Bible. This one happened a long time ago. His story is found in the Old Testament, and those are the 39 books of the Bible out of 66, the 39 that were written before the time of Jesus, right? And that the last writing happened 400 years before Jesus came along. This particular story was found in the history of Israel 900 years before Jesus came. 9 centuries before Jesus came. That means to say almost 3,000 years ago. So here's a lesson in all this. Note this right away, that some lessons of faith never grow old. The reason is because they are universal and timeless, because people, though we have made a lot of progress in civilization, people at their heart and their core have not changed much in all the years. So these same things that they learned 3,000 years ago are exactly the same things that we learn today. It's part of how we're made and part of how God works. So the struggles of the soul are repeated. The struggles of the soul are repeated in every generation. We struggle with the same stuff. We don't have to learn these things by heart of bitter experience, you know. Others have gone down the path. They wrote about it. They told us about it. And here's one of the stories you find in the Bible story. It's found in 1 Kings. During the time of Elijah, Israel was going through a really rough time. It was really bad. They had a run of really bad kings, really bad leaders. 19 leaders who had brought ruin to the nation economically and militarily, but most of all spiritually. They were supposed to lead, and they hadn't. Imagine we had 19 bad presidents in a row. Well, you know, we all have to put up with it for 4 to 10 years. The king is a lifetime appointment, right? You never get voted out of office. Their tenure is for life. Well, sometimes they get executed out of office, but voted, you know, that's one way to do it, I guess. Talk about a hanging Chad. There's Prince Chad hanging in the courtyard back there. But the worst of this raunchy run of kings was actually after the 19th bad one. The worst of them all was the 20th. And his name was Ahab. How many people do you know who would name their children Ahab? Hey, kid, you're going to be bad seed. We're going to aim, you know, Ahab is. And then he made it worse by marrying this girl, made her a queen. The queen was this horrible babe called Jezebel. So never heard little girls named Jezebel these days, right? I mean, that's like the greatest slam on the face of the planet. It's like this bad character thing going on. For 3,000 years, those two names have been associated with evil and bad character. For 3,000 years. So these things last. Ahab and Jezebel were this way. They were bad news economically, militarily, but especially spiritually, and here's why. They were leading the whole country to a very bad place. Israel was born following God. They outlawed the worship of God in Israel. They made it illegal to worship God, and they replaced the true God with an idol called Baal. And Baal was a bad deal, you know. So they had to worship God, worship Baal in these phony temples and everything. The official religion of Israel was replaced by these guys, right? By Ahab and Jezebel. So God had enough of this, and he called another character in called Elijah. And he was the prophet to tell them that God was not happy with this, and to be the spokesman to deliver this message to Israel's leaders and the priests of Baal. And so he said this: judgment was coming if you don't change your ways. You know, this is going to be bad for you. You think it's bad. Wait till you see the outcome of this thing. You stay where you are, bad things are going to happen. So we pick up the story in 1 Kings 17, beginning at verse 1. You'll find it in your notes, wherever my notes went. Oh, there they are. Yeah, remember these things? You'll find it right there. And almost the entire story is there. There's a couple of fill in the blanks along the way, and I'll give those to you as we go along. All right? Here's where the story begins. Now Elijah confronted King Ahab. As surely as God lives, the God of Israel, whom I worship and serve, there will be no dew or rain during the next few years unless I give the word. Now note a couple of things right away. Just pause for a moment. First off is this. This is maybe one of the first examples, well, not the first one, but there's several examples in the Bible where God called people to do something that was different than the current laws in vogue. These two characters had made the worship of God illegal. You did it on penalty of death. And Elijah said, not so fast. The God that I serve, the God of our fathers, this God has control over this situation more than you, Ahab. Right? So the real king of the universe is not the king of Israel, it's the king of ages. So Elijah then confronts Ahab, the guy with the power of life and death, and tells him that, that because he led the people from God, no rain or moisture was going to come until he said it would come. And that we find out later was 3.5 years. Now, and it wouldn't end till Elijah said so. So he is claiming like this authority. So Ahab says, okay, no worship of the only God. We're going to go for Baal, and the God of Israel is out. So no more of that anymore. And Elijah said, no, wait a minute. He is God. You can't just say we're done with that, because God has a word to say about it. Now, right now, California, I understand, is going through a drought that they say has lasted about 20 years. It's terrible out there. You know what it means now? You know what it means, this terrible thing that's happened to these folks? They can't water their golf courses anymore. It is a serious problem when it comes down to not being able to water your lawn. But think about that, 20-year drought, and they still got water to drink. And they still have food to eat. In those days, if there was a drought for a year, what happened immediately after that is there's no food. They can't export it or import it from someplace else like we can today. They had no options. So a drought meant famine was coming. When the water dried up, the food went away. Famine was on the way. As you can imagine, the message didn't sit well with Ahab, so he and Jezebel put a price on his head and sent bounty hunters to get Elijah. This was, we talk about headhunters now. They weren't looking for a corporate head. They were looking for an actual head on a platter. So Elijah did what we might do when somebody comes to get us. He got out of the way. Actually, he became a track star. He ran. And so he got as far away from them as he possibly could, and for good reason. Actually, God told him to do so. So meanwhile, famine and thirst gripped the nation, tough times. Guess who Ahab blames? Not himself. He doesn't even blame God. He doesn't even go to Baal. What he says is, it's Elijah's fault. It's Elijah's fault. So he went to get him. For Elijah, this is especially tough, right? So he wasn't just running for his life, he was running on empty. He just had this major confrontational battle with the priests of Baal, and this terrible confrontive conversation with the king who held the power of life and death over him, and then God says, it's time to go. He felt empty and abandoned. Well, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't after all of that? He had been called to this place, he'd done exactly what God wanted, and he felt alone and abandoned. He became like a symbol for the nation. He was weary, hungry, and all dried up. Maybe you feel that way now. Your job is dried up, your money has dried up, your marriage has evaporated. You want to run somewhere, but there's nowhere to go. It's just a drought out there, and it's even worse, a drought in here. So listen, listen, listen. God stepped in and offered hope to Elijah. So are you ready today for God to do that for you? Because this isn't something that he just did 3,000 years ago to the old people of faith way back in the day. Because God hasn't changed at all. So if you are ready in that spot, open your notes to the inside. In the teaching today, right here, we're going to see that God took Elijah to 3 different locations that teach us 3 different lessons of hope. 3 locations, 3 lessons. The first lesson is learned is this. When I feel abandoned, God is teaching me dependence. God is teaching me dependence. Now, we don't like that much, but there it is. There is nothing worse than the feeling of abandonment, right? Hardly anything. If a child feels abandoned, there's hardly a greater crisis that can happen. You're all alone. Elijah did everything God told him to do, and it turned out badly for a while. Wouldn't you think it would be the other way around? God did everything God wanted, and God blessed him, and everything went well? It's ironic that it would happen this way. He confronted the king, got a price put on his head for all of his efforts, right? And then he's running for his life. He was a dead man running. It's sort of a part of a new season of zombies on the run. But that's where he was, He was tripping over his own bandages. Where'd that come from? Anyway, so he couldn't trust anybody. He had to find a place to hide. He didn't know who to trust. You ever feel like that? So for the first year of the 3-year drought, God took him to a place called Kerith. Kerith was, for Elijah, the place of dependence. It's where he learned all over again how to depend on God. There is nothing worse than that whole thing. So we pick up the story in 1 Kings chapter 17, 2nd verse. Here we go. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, leave here, where he was, turn eastward and hide in the Kerith ravine east of the Jordan. He wants him to go and hide. Kerith means, literally, to be cut off. Think about that. He sends them to a place which is not just a symbol for being cut off, but actually is named cut off. Appropriate, because that's what he was. He was cut off from the outside world, cut off from friends, cut off from any kind of support. Back to the story. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there. So he did what the Lord had told him. He went to the Kerith ravine east of the Jordan, stayed there. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. Now hold there a minute and think about this for just a second. This is kind of like a little bit nutty, right? Seems to me. I mean, this was food brought by ravens, not food people are raven over. Ravens are scavengers, right? Now think about what they eat. Now this wasn't an eagle dropping a fresh trout on his barbecue grill. It was a crow bringing freshly grilled roadkill for a whole year, right? This is ground chariot chuck roast on the half-beak. This is a diet for the birds, really. And that's what they were used to eating, and they just brought in their leftovers. So think about that. It doesn't sound like a lot of fun for a year. Then it gets worse. It says, then the brook dries up. After a while, the brook dried up because there was no rain. Well, that makes a lot of sense. After a period of time, there's no more water left. Then, this first location on Elijah's journey, it begins to tell you something. He's stuck all alone in a ravine for a year. What's a ravine? A ravine is really a steep valley with high sides, usually cut out of a rock face. And it's from the water running down it forever and ever and ever. And there's this deep thing cut in the middle of that rock face. It is cold, it is wet, and it is dark. In this particular ravine that still exists today, direct sunlight only hits people at the bottom of the ravine for 2 or 3 minutes a day. So that was his life for a year. You ever feel like you're cut off from the sunshine, you got nothing, then the water runs out? You know, things are not looking good. You know, some of you are there right now. And you're beginning to wonder, so what's this cold, dark, lonely place? I mean, what's God doing with me? I feel like I'm just cut off from everything. What is going on? And that's the right question to ask. You have to be careful about how you answer it. Eventually, God did great things through Elijah, but this was a time of preparation. This was a time of waiting and growing that wouldn't have happened otherwise. God does the same thing with us. He does the same thing with us when he takes us to a place like this. God does the same thing with us. So, understand that this is how this thing works. When God does this in us, he does it because he does it on purpose. That's not right. Are we back on? That's good. Okay then. I won't have to make it up anymore. All right. So this place that he was at on this journey, this cold, dark, lonely place, was the place where he was stuck. And we're still not on page. And one more. Thank you. When we are in this thing, God is doing the same thing in us that he did with Elijah 3,000 years ago. He wants us to be ready for something he's about to do with us. And it can be something truly great in this world. And he says to us, you need time alone with me. I want your undivided attention. I'm going to put you in a solitary place when all you have to focus on is me. In this ravine, Elijah only had God. So have you ever been there when you didn't think there was anything else? You're like cut off from everything and lonely and all by yourself? In this ravine, this is where Elijah was. But then, for Elijah, it got even worse. Then the brook dries up. So then, this brook is going to dry up in your life as well, I expect. It's happened that way for me. When I was right in the middle of what God wanted me to do, and suddenly everything was pulled away. It is a moment where you begin to wonder what's going on. Exactly the point. Sometimes the brook is drying up. The money chokes down to a trickle. The support disappears like the morning mist. The friends evaporate like dew. Everything kind of stagnates. Energy and health, just like you're just static. Something that was good is suddenly gone. Something that was good is suddenly gone. Something that brought you joy now disappoints. Something that made your life work is now pulled away from you. So here's the question. What do you do when the brook dries up? You better look at the reasons for this. And I note a few. In your notes, there are 3 reasons the resource dries up. Here's the first one. to keep me from depending on something other than God. When Elijah was in the ravine for months, he learned he could count on the water in the brook, right? I can trust that. The water's always going to be there. It's been every day for 365 days. Then it wasn't. Then he realized he can't trust the water. He had to trust the God that provided the water. Does that make sense? So the first thing, we had to depend entirely on God. It really isn't easy to begin to trust God in your own strength. I mean, we do this all the time. We substitute stuff for Him. The scriptures have a word for that. It's called idolatry. When we start trusting in the things, in the jobs, in the house, in the resources, in the relationships, in the people, all that kind of stuff, it's not bad to trust in things. But understand where the essential trust must be located. Otherwise, we're always vulnerable to what these things will happen, what happens to us when they're taken away. And they're going to go away. So it's really easy to begin to trust in your own strength. There's a defining moment when this happens. It defines your faith. It defines who you are with God. And it deepens your faith in God, not the things that God provides. Does that make sense? If you get that good thing down, you've got the first great reason. So, what's the brook in your life right now? What is that thing that you've been kind of counting on for a long time, and then suddenly, poof, it's gone? So what do you turn to for happiness and security when those moments happen? Sometimes God allows it to dry up so you find faith in Him, not what He gives in Him Himself. Second reason, to move me to a better place. God left him there a year, not a lifetime. He left him there a year, right? Not forever. It was not to punish him. Now catch this. It wasn't to punish him. It was to teach. It was not a place of guilt, like he was trying to get him. It was a place of growth. He was trying to grow him in ways that he couldn't otherwise. The ravine had turned into a rut. It was time to move on to a better place. The third reason, to prove that God has not forgotten me. Our first response is to think like He's left, right? To think He's forgotten me. That's often my first reaction to the really bad stuff that happens. To think, well, where are you right now? And He is saying, well, right where I've always been. Where are you right now? But that, you see, it's not true that He's left. Instead, He's giving you a fresh start toward a better place. He's giving you a fresh start to a better place. And that's the thing that's hardest to see in these moments. So pay attention. In that moment, God is teaching you something you could not otherwise learn. He is teaching you dependence. Third lesson, learn when I feel abandoned, God is teaching me, I'm sorry. Yeah, all right. Okay, first lesson, learn what I feel. Man, I could get better than this. It's possible. So just stay with me for a minute. First lesson, when I feel abandoned, God is teaching me dependence. Second lesson, when I feel lost, God is teaching me obedience. And the second location God moves Elijah to teaches the second lesson, which is obedience. His water's gone. He's got to leave his hiding place. He's got to take a dangerous trip to a new place. So we'll pick up the story again. Verse 8, go back to your notes. And verse 8 reads like this. Then the Lord said to Elijah, go and live in the village of Zarephath near the city of Sidon. I have instructed a widow there to feed you. Now, so, moment here. God has given instruction ahead of time, right? He wasn't unaware of the situation. He has something prepared ahead of time. But this was no easy thing. The walk from Kerith to Zarephath was like 100 miles. And remember, there's drought and there's famine. There's no water. Well, I don't know how he did it exactly, but he made the trip. Worse than that, the walk was right through the middle of King Ahab's territory. He walked right through his backyard on the way. So he's exposed. He's he's on enemy ground with no protection. He's got nobody with him, right? So worse still, he was going to be staying in Zarephath. That may not mean anything to you, but it did to him. That was Jezebel's hometown. So go hide out in her backyard, right? So, because nobody knows her there, right? There won't be any spies going on there, you know. So he goes to this really weird thing, you know. It's a strange thing. The solution to the provision was this, on top of that, a poor widow, the least likely source. So that's like going to live with a homeless guy, you know, because there's no place to live. So, or like getting a wardrobe from Sunray, you know, that's possible. Now, the first hour, only about 3 people got that there, too. So don't ask me later. Things have gone from bad to better to worse or whatever. So if you're there right now, some of you feel like you're on this trip. You know, the bills are stacking up. You have no idea how you're going to pay them. If you're on the journey, maybe your health is breaking down. Remember this, God's miracles don't happen when we are comfortable, when life is comfortable, when you are comfortable. So if you're feeling a little uncomfortable, a little insecure, a little unsettled, congratulations, you just might be on the path to a miracle. Could be. So keep your eyes open, because the source of your miracle is almost always unexpected. We're not planning for it. You don't know how it's going to happen. That's how God does things. That's what we call it, a miracle. So you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know where it's coming from. But also note this very important element. Ready for this? Yes. Talk to me. Thank you. Thank you. That really helped me. So God's miracles are dependent on your obedience. God's miracles are dependent on your obedience. Elijah trusted God and obeyed even when it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And then God showed up and did amazing things in his life after that. So God's miracles come after you obey. He doesn't throw them out there and say, hey, now follow me. He said, no, follow me. And then he provides. So if you're in that place, feeling uncomfortable, uncertain, know that God can be trusted. That's what he does. So one of the things if you were in the communion we had between the gatherings, Chris is talking about this, is Jeremiah 29:11 through 13. It's in your notes. I want you to take it out and read it with me, because this thing is really, really big. It's one of the most important verses in the Bible about this point of desperation. Okay, you ready? Got it? Going to read with me? Oh, I guess it's on the screen too. Okay, you can cheat. All right, you ready? Here we go. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you when you seek me with all your heart. Note, hope and a future, underline that, and all your heart. All your heart. One of these things that desperation provides for us, when all these things are taken away, is we suddenly seek God with all our hearts. One of the reasons these things happen to us as people is because we're so bad at recognizing who God is until this happens. Until it happens, we don't really know. So the first lesson learned, when I feel abandoned, God is teaching me dependence. The second lesson learned, when I feel lost, God is teaching me obedience. The third lesson learned, when I feel I need a miracle, God is teaching me to be a miracle. When Elijah is in the rut of the ravine, God teaches him dependence. When he is on the road to Zarephath, God teaches him obedience. When he gets to Zarephath, he needs a miracle. And here's how it works. We picked up the story in verse 10. So he went to Zarephath, remember, it's Jezebel's hometown. As he arrived at the gates of the village, he saw a widow gathering sticks. A widow gathering sticks, right? She's out gathering for herself. And he asked her, would you please bring me a little water in a cup? As she was going to get it, he called her, bring me a bite of bread too. Now hold your finger there for just a minute. Doesn't this sound a little bit odd to you? In those days, there was no one who was in a worse situation than a widow with a child and no man in the picture. It just was the worst possible situation you could imagine. You know, this was the worst life. You had no source of respectable income at all available to you, and you'd be dependent upon other people for all your resources. So this is almost funny. He's asking her for water and food. The least likely candidate for this. So maybe this is a sign of his own desperate place. Maybe he's thinking that this is the time where I can trust this person because she's got no power. She probably doesn't know Jezebel, she does, and she's really in a bad spot. So it's as non-threatening as it possibly can be, right? Maybe he's doing that. I don't know. At any rate, it's like asking a homeless person for lunch when they're living out of a grocery cart. That's kind of like this, the way this looked. Hey, can you get me a steak, medium well, baked potato tossed salad with vinegar dressing and a side of green beans and onions and some honey bread? And by the way, can you make it with a table for two? Because I'm expecting Jezebel, and you know how demanding she can be. It's like crazy. Why would he ask this poor woman about this stuff? So, but maybe it was because God had taught him something and asked him to do this rather unusual thing. He had learned a few things by now. He's on a learning curve with the work of God, and he began to trust him more. So back to the story, verse 12. But she said to him, I swear by the Lord your God that I don't have a single piece of bread in the house, and I have only a handful of flour left in the jar, and a little cooking oil. Now note the little, that, nothing. I was just gathering a few sticks to cook this last meal. Don't need a whole lot to make what I got left. And then my son and I will die. Now hold there a minute. Elijah thought he was without hope. His hope-o-meter was maybe at a 3, right? Hers was a 0. She had given up on life. So back to the story and note his words to her. But Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. I don't know if there's any word that can better describe the emotions of somebody who is in a position like that. And Elijah knew it all too well because he had been there just last year. So he says, don't be afraid. Maybe these are the words that come straight to you too today. Maybe it's what you need to hear more than anything else. So go ahead, and he says, and do what I have said, Elijah says, but make a little bread for me first. Then use what's left to prepare a meal for yourself and your son. Now, that sounds a little bit weird too, right? It's not a very Christian thing to do. Don't you say, well, you know, just, you know, you go first, right? But he didn't say that. And here's the reason. Back to the story. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. There will always be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time when the Lord sends rain and the crops grow again. So she did as Elijah said, and she and Elijah and her family continued to eat for many days. There was always enough flour and olive oil left in the containers, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. Stay there for a minute. Don't go further, right? This is how God works. I don't want you to miss it. Sometimes when we think we need a miracle, we're sitting back and saying, well, God, come on, I need something, I need it now, come on, why don't you do something? And God doesn't work that way. He's asking for us to work while we wait. He doesn't get active when we are passive. He doesn't become active while we're passive, right? Instead, he wants us to be a miracle before we get a miracle, to work while we wait. So Elijah needs a miracle. God says, walk 100 miles through enemy territory to the hometown of the queen who wants your head, and because someone there needs a miracle that only you can provide. That's weird, isn't it? In the same way, the widow needed a miracle, and he was the one who could provide it. So she was asked to serve and give out of her extreme need, desperate circumstances, hopeless situation. It was for a reason. Now, do you think she had been praying for a miracle? Yeah, every day. You know, where are you, God? Come on, show up. I need some food here. I'm going to die. My kid's going to die, you know. I think she was probably praying every day about that all the time. And he comes back to her and he says, I need you to be a miracle for this prophet who is tired and hungry and thirsty and desperate, just like you are. Just like you. All right? Be the miracle you need. When you give and serve, you are blessed. When you are generous, you are filled. When Elijah is in the rut of the ravine, he trusts God, and God takes care of him. He takes care of him in that point. And he teaches him dependence. When he's on the road to Zarephath, he trusted God, and God took care of him. He protected him, and God teaches him obedience. When he gets to Zarephath, he needs a miracle, and God asks him to be a miracle for somebody else first. Be a miracle and care for somebody. And God may not ask you to do anything that wild and, radical. But where is God asking you to trust him? Where? Because he's asking you. There's an invitation out there for everybody all the time. Where is God saying to you, if you follow me and trust me, I will take care of you? Where is that happening in your life? My guess is you probably have an idea. Some of you are already there and you're afraid. You're scared. You won't have enough of something left. And so he's saying, trust him when you're afraid. Do something for others when you don't feel like you have anything left. God is saying, trust me, I'll take care of you. Until the day you die, I'll take care of you. Back to the notes. We started with a list of things you can't do without, but there's only one thing you can't run out of, and that is hope. Everything else you can manage. That thing, you can't manage anything else without it. So I want to close today by giving you some biblical advice. This is advice that has worked for 3,000 or 4,000 years. Tried and true. Some biblical advice. God's lessons for when I'm running out of everything. So there are 4 summary lessons of trust you learn in this thing. The first lesson is this: God is all I need. At this place in your life, with all the uncertainties and anxieties, God is all you need. God can provide for you any way he wants. If he closes a door here, he can open one there. He can do that. He's God. That's what he does, right? Don't put your trust in bank accounts and career moves and people and contracts. God is all you need. He provides those things, but he is the provision. Trust him. Second lesson, where God guides, God provides. Where God guides, He provides. If God tells you to go to Zarephath, go. I mean, don't wait for your friends' advice or other people. It may be helpful to get wisdom from wise people. But when He gives you direction, He gives you provision. How does God provide for you? One day at a time. He doesn't promise a 10-year venture. He promises a one-day venture. The third lesson is this: trust God one day at a time. You may just have to get on your knees every day and say, God, I don't think I could trust you for next year. I can't trust you maybe for next month. I don't even know about next week, and I sure can't trust you for tomorrow. But today, just today, I will trust you today. You put enough of those in a row, and you have a week and a month and a year, right? That is how it works. The fourth lesson, God's promises hinge on my obedience. Since that's true, here's the question. What is God asking me to do right now? Is He asking you to take a next step? So we believe in next steps around here, and it's because people oftentimes stay stagnant and unmoving in their position of faith for years and decades at a time. Sometimes you have dramatic experiences with God. That happens to me now and again. But mostly, it is incremental steps of faith you take every day, right? So we want to give you a bunch of those, and they're on this card, right? I want you to take this out and take a look at it. So maybe you just received Christ last week at Easter for the first time, and maybe you're just starting out on this whole thing. Maybe baptism is your next step. I don't know, but you should find out something about it. Check that box, and we'll get a hold of you for that. We'll send you some stuff. Are you going to join a group? I mean, we've got groups that are starting up next week. Maybe you need some new relationships in a church setting where you can do something better than where you've been before. Maybe you can do that. Check out the flyer in the program, the thing that looks like this. It's all about the groups that are starting up next week. You can check that one of those boxes on there and drop it in the basket as you leave, and people will get a hold of you about where that group is going to meet. So, or go out in the lobby area, and there are people at the table out there to sign you up if you want to do that. You can talk to somebody about it. So you can maybe it's time for you to take a major step forward and join the church. I got to tell you, this was the hard one for me. I didn't join a church until I was a Christian for almost 15 years. I had some deep-seated emotions about the church, and none of them were positive. But I began to realize after a period of time that the only growth arc I was ever going to discover truly was found here. So we take that very seriously, and we're committed to that. We're committed to your growth, and we want you to be committed to your growth too. And you might start by joining the church. So after this hour is done out there, we're going to have we can forage for some food. There's a little bit of snackage going on. But in 28 minutes, you can ask whatever question you want. We'll tell you about what the church is about and what we're trying to do. And then you can eat something and go forth from there and get some dessert. No, we're going to have dessert. Don't get dessert. You have that already. So anyway, here's what you do. Whatever God is talking to you about, do it. Just get started with something. Do something, for crying out loud. You can't steer a parked car. God can't steer a stalled soul. If you're just sitting there, just expecting something to happen without making any motion forward, well, just understand you're going to be in Kerith a long time. And God didn't intend you to go there to stay. Here's the last verse in your program today. It's found in Philippians chapter 4, verse 19. I want you to read it with me out loud again. And it begins with the words, "And this same God who takes care of me." Ready? Ready? All right, go. "And this same God who takes care of me will also blank out."
Thanks for joining us today.
Something else. What in the world is going on back there? Can we do that one more time? Just take out your notes, because that may be more reliable than what's going on up there right now. Here it is on the back page of the notes in this little grayscale box called Memory Verse. It would be a good one to memorize. Let's try that. "And this same God who takes care of me will supply all your needs from His glorious riches, which have been given to us in Christ Jesus." So here's the final question. Do you know Him? Do you know Jesus? Or are you just kind of wishing, hoping, thinking that you might, but you're really not very sure about that in your situation with Him? So why don't you take that step? Maybe that's the first beginning step to take. I highly recommend it to you, because any great progress in my life didn't happen until this moment happened. All right? So here's what we want to do. We're going to pray. I'm going to talk to God. And it's not, I'm just going to suggest some words for you. So here's a good moment for you to just do a little business with God about this stuff. Maybe you've been in a bad place for a long time and you wonder whether He's there at all with you. This is the place where you can get that thing locked down. Okay, let's pray. God, we're so grateful for what You have done for us. For the lessons of the past where we learn from the experiences of other people the depth of your care, your provision, how we can trust in you. So we're grateful for that, for the lives of others who have showed us, and for your words that guarantee it. But it begins with this relationship with Him. So here's what you do. It begins with a moment of truth, literally. The first thing God asks of anybody who wants a relationship with Him is honesty. He said, if you confess your sins, that means to say, to agree with Him, to be honest about it. He knows everything anyway. He just wants you to agree with Him about how it is, how bad it's been, what you've become. He says, if you confess your sins, He is faithful, and He is just, and He will forgive you and cleanse you from all unrighteousness. That's His promise. Our part, be honest. His part, He will forgive and cleanse. That's His promise. We can trust Him for that. So here are the words to say. Jesus, I admit that I have really messed up in my life. Done a lot of things that you haven't liked. And I want to ask you to forgive me for it. I want to turn away from that stuff and trust you. Just say those words to Him. And then as a point of faith, let's just thank Him for that He does what He promises. So God, we're grateful for you, for forgiveness, for the things that you do. You paid for our sins through the death of Christ on the cross. We thank you for what you have done because you promised you would. Secondly, He said, as many as received Him, to them He gave the right to become children of God. It's not something that we are born with, it's a right we are given later. So here's what you ask Him to do. He can adopt you into His family, make you His child. Just receive Him in that way. So God, we want you to come in. I want you to come into my life. I want you to make me your child. Make me into somebody that can run into your presence with joy and confidence. And now, God, we're grateful for that. Thank you for what you have done, because you promised you would. And then finally, part of the hard one is to say, I'm willing to follow you. This is where God finally becomes God for us. Because if we're running our own lives, we're God. So it's time to turn over the control center to Him and give Him editorial control of your life, your calendar, your checkbook, your life. So we ask you to do that. God, we ask you to lead us these days. Not just today and tomorrow, but for the rest of our lives. You said to your early disciples, follow me and I will make you. We want you to make us into something that we are not yet. And we promise to follow you. So we're grateful for what you have done. Thank you that you have given us this opportunity for unbelievable and everlasting hope because of what you've done with Christ and in us. In the name of Jesus, everybody agreed and said out loud, Amen. Now, come right back in a moment. We'll just have a little short video. I want you to pay attention to that. But right after that, in about 10 minutes, we'll begin in the lobby area with the Connect event. So if you want to join us for that, feel free to do so. And we'll be starting in a little bit. Now listen to this.
Thanks for joining us today. Just a couple more things before we head out the door. As you leave, there'll be ushers at the doors with baskets where you can place your connection card. If it's your first time with us today, we have a special gift for you in exchange for your completed connection card. At the Connect kiosk in the lobby, in front of the glass doors, is the book Unshakable. It's all about how you can stand strong when things go wrong. Simply give the worker there your connection card, and they will give you a book. If you're a member or regular attender, then you know that the other insert in the program is the offering envelope. At Riverwood, we believe in generous living. It is one of the ways in which we worship Him. And all the great things going on around here are made possible through your faithful giving. You can drop this envelope in the basket or mail it in. You can also give online, either once or set up automated giving. Just click on the online giving link on our webpage. But if it's your first time with us today, this gathering is our gift to you. Now, for those of you that have children that are on the other end of the building, we would ask that you promptly pick them up so the children's workers can clean and reset the room. I want to remind you to come back next Sunday. You won't want to miss it. Well, it's been a great day here at Riverwood. Would you stand and say hello to 3 more people that you have not yet met? And we'll see you next week.